All right, Doctor Who fans, welcome to my overview of season two. I know I was going to call it series two because I'm going to be revisiting the series two from 2006 as part of, I guess you could say it's my sort of new Who 20th anniversary like review season that we're going to be doing throughout the remainder of the summer into the autumn. I guess you could say as a way to build up to the spin-off that's coming. Because we're going to be doing those reviews soon, I thought it would be best to call this season two. I know people can still call it series two if they want to. If it makes it better for them, then that's understandable. But in this overview, I thought it would be a good opportunity to sort of talk about I guess a chance for me to sort of share my favorite episodes, favorite moments, obviously the bad moments of the series, which is quite a few. What we've seen in this series really, and take that all in and kind of rate this series finally, and put a closing chapter to the reviews on this series, which I think is especially given the fact that we don't know when Doctor Who's going to come back. As I'm hoping by the time this video comes out, we would have known when the next series or when we're going to get our next fix of Doctor Who. But if not, then we're kind of just waiting for official information from BBC as to who will return. I'm hoping it will be by the end of the year. By the looks of things, it doesn't look like we're getting a Christmas special, judging by how BBC News is describing when they were talking about last week's finale. We'll get to that shortly. Without further ado, be sure to also share your favorite episodes, moments, etc. in the comment section below. If you're a Whovia, I would love to hear from you. And it'd also be nice to do maybe like a special video at some point where we get to where I get to chat with some Doctor Who fans. I would love to do that as a series on my Who universe at some point. So hopefully we can make that happen. Should I make any friends out of this? Hopefully I will. Let's get back on track here. So Doctor Who season two. What has been my favorite episodes in this series in terms of the 2025 series of Doctor Who? What did I love? Okay, so in terms of the episodes I obviously enjoyed Lux, obviously because the Mr. Ring-a-Ding, luckily he's not singing that song now, he's calmed down. I told him off for singing. But yes, it was really cool to have that whole cartoon villain gimmick, even though it was essentially a god disguised as Mr. Ring-a-Ding. I love that whole Mr. Ring-a-Ding, and even that catchy tune that will probably get on someone's nerves. It probably has got on someone's nerves. Nevertheless, Mr. Ring-a-Ding, it was a great concept to have that cartoon villain thing, and then also the fact cartoon would become very similar to Sonic the Hedgehog at one point when he was taking the Doctor's regeneration energy, and it was changing his cartoon into making him look like similar to how movie animated CGI characters look like very in the cinemas, which is really cool. So I really liked that episode. That episode was fun. The Well was another episode I enjoyed, particularly with the whole Midnight sequel. The fact that the entire location that the Doctor and Belinda fell into was essentially the Midnight location years in the future, because of course the last time the Doctor went there, it was basically a holiday resort, and obviously now it's not a holiday resort. It's basically years after that, and then the Doctor finally realized it was the Midnight entity. Very cool setup, even though some people would prefer it to be a completely different story due to like the finale and everything. I didn't mind the whole Return of the Midnight entity. I thought it was really clever to bring that storyline back for a sequel. Very, very smart decision there. Another favorite story of mine, of course, the Interstellar Song Contest. It was great to see Rylan loving the fact that he was in Doctor Who. You could tell he was having the time of his life coming into Doctor Who. This was one of his dream moments as a presenter, to get the opportunity to appear in Doctor Who, and the fact that it came true for him this year was, even though it was filmed last year, but like, to have this episode out this year for him was definitely a great deal for him. Very, very beloved and everything. And yeah, so that was great for him. And also the fact that he got to do it with Graham Norton, who has been at the forefront with Eurovision for so many years, and he continues to do so. So it's great to see that Graham Norton also had a chance to appear physically in Doctor Who, even though his actual human self was essentially just combined into like a computer, essentially. But it was still a great episode, the Interstellar Song Contest. It was a lot of fun. to have like a sort of Doctor Who style Eurovision event, even though in a completely Doctor Who-y way. But then, of course, we also gonna have to acknowledge the story in the engine. I love that story because of the fact the fugitive Doctor got a chance to appear. I don't think many of us were expecting the fugitive Doctor to appear, so it was really nice to see her come back and be a part of that whole Salon episode, which was basically trapped inside an Egyptian spider god or an African spider god. Obviously, is a real thing in real life, being brought to life into Doctor Who. Really cool concept, and others love how they had that. It was really, really good. So really loving it. So yes, that was a really favorite story of mine. I guess in some regard, I do. There were elements that I enjoyed in the reality war, particularly Jodie Whittaker coming back as the 13th Doctor. It was great to see her return. She surprised me and many others by making a surprise return to Doctor Who, which I literally thought for since that ever since she left the show, I thought, okay, maybe Jodie's not going to come back. But the fact that she came back so soon was quite interesting to see that happen for Doctor Who, to have her interact with Ncuti Gatwa, even though she never properly regenerated to Ncuti Gatwa, was quite something. So that was pretty much my favorite stories in terms of this series. They were the stories I enjoyed the most out of all the 8 episodes. I think they were the stories I really looked up to. Now, in terms of favorite moments in this series, well, in terms of the favorite moments, I think right at the top of the list would have to be Ncuti Gatwa's performance. I honestly believe he knocked it out the park in terms of his performance. He really stepped himself up as the Doctor. He was literally in the role as the Doctor this year, and I know there was a mixed bag last year because of the way that Ncuti was handling the role last year, and yes, most of the series was centered around finding out who Ruby's mother is. Nevertheless, the way they set it up this series, I think they did a really good job with the whole season 2 thing. I think this year's series showed that Ncuti Gatwa was having the time of his life. He was really in the role of Doctor Who, and it worked. It worked for Ncuti. It made Ncuti's Doctor look really good, especially with the way that Ncuti performed as the Doctor in so many situations, especially in the robot when he had to do the whole 6-word thing to Belinda. I love. And then, of course, he when he was talking to a cartoon, said like, "Why am I saying that?" When he was telling him to cut. So that was questioning himself and thinking he might be in a TV show. I love. He was trying to figure that out for a minute. Great performance from Ncuti, and I think everyone could agree. His performance was right at the top of the list. And then we obviously have to come to another part of the series that was fun. I mean, obviously, Jodie Whittaker was another part of the series that was fun, along with the Fugitive Doctor. I also love the chemistry between the Doctor and Belinda during the first, really, their chemistry was amazing. Part of the series, the first 6 episodes, obviously a very different chemistry to what we've seen in past companions and Doctor companions in the past. Love how they handled the chemistry between those two, and it was really good. It was great. It was great fun. Great fun to see Belinda and the Doctor having that chemistry of day one, and it just worked. It really did. It worked for those two. I really enjoyed it, and so much fun. So much fun to see those two interact. Great stuff. Great stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed those parts of the series. I think they were the strong, probably my favorite parts of the series from this particular series of Doctor Who for sure. And also another part of the series that I enjoyed was the fact that, well, obviously being right about Mrs. Flood being the Rani, mentioning that quite a bit throughout the reviews, that I kind of suspect she was the Rani, and turns out she was the Rani. And the fact that I got it right just made me happy, of course. So that was great to finally get my sort of prediction of her being the Rani just spot on. There are some bad to come into this series. I'm afraid we're going to have to acknowledge the bad, because there was quite a few down parts of this series that I really hope that Russell's going to improve on. But judging by how some of his decision makings have been going lately, I'm very doubtful that we're going to see improvements in these areas. I think one of the things that myself and a lot of Doctor Who fans can agree on is definitely agree on is the fact Susan Foreman, Karen Ann Ford, forward. The fact that Russell had a missed opportunity with Susan Foreman during the finale, the fact that you went out of your way to feature her in moments in a perspectives that Susan would be in the Doctor's mind, communicating with him, and then you do all that, but yet you don't give Carol Ann Ford the opportunity to interact with Ncuti Gatwa, which would have been one of the most favorite parts of the series. I think a lot of people would love to see her hugging Ncuti Gatwa, his version of the Doctor. Been a great moment for this series, and trust me, a lot of people would have loved to see that. It just sucks that Russell never gave us that scene, and it almost makes it feel like they are letting her basically make these small cameos just so that if she does die, they will feel they'll feel gutted for not using her when she does pass away. And because of how her age is, could happen sooner than we think. And that's why I was hoping Russell was going to give her the full proper moment where she finally where Susan would reunite with his grandfather. We didn't get that. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity in the series. And I think it upsets a lot of people, including myself, because I really was looking forward to having that moment happen. But Russell never gave us that opportunity to have that moment. And it's so crushing because Carol Ann Ford deserves better. It just sucks that this is what they do to a character or an actress who was there since the very beginning in 1963. They treat her like this in 2024. I mean, 2025, should I say. Really sucks, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't. So that was one downward spiral that myself and many Doctor Who fans are definitely going to agree on. Another part of the series that I feel like kind of ruined what was great beforehand, and that was, as I was saying earlier about the chemistry, about the Doctor and Belinda. It went well up to the first 6 episodes, and as soon as we get to Wishwell, they ruined that they kind of ruined the whole point of Belinda by doing this whole the Doctor is now in love with Belinda and they're now a couple, and then all of a sudden she's got a child and now she's acting all camp and everything, and it just made it look very weird to us how they made it. They went from what we had at the start of the series all the way to what we got in the series finale of Belinda, and this Belinda was nothing like the Belinda we started with. This was completely opposite of what we were supposed to have gotten in the series finale, and I feel like it just felt weird to me, and I'm sure a lot of Doctor Who fans will agree that the way that they portrayed Belinda didn't really come across very well. It just looked awkward to see her this campy, and I'm pretty sure Vanessa Seth didn't want her character to be like this, and I'm sure if we had interviews if there was interviews out there with her outside of her leaving the role, I'm sure she would say that her character would have played differently. Russell kind of made a mockery of her acting abilities by what they did with her in the finale. Sucks because she deserved it a much better finale for her. Even though the Poppy stuff I didn't mind, it's just the way that they made her character towards the end is kind of ruined her character development, in my opinion. And I think they could have done things a little differently, and it would have made much more sense the way that they would have handled the whole Poppy stuff. If they did things a little differently, we would have been okay with it. That's pretty much how I feel about the Belinda. I just feel like Belinda didn't get a proper send. Yeah, sure, she got to say goodbye. I think it could have been done better should they have not made her act weird for the majority of the finale. Yeah, that was the thing that crushed me about the whole Belinda parts, was that she was doing so well first 6 episodes, and then the final 2 episodes they just kind of ruined her character, and it's just crushing. And then of course and then in terms of what other moments, obviously we have to go back to the Ronnie reveal, because, well, of course the Ronnie reveal, there is something very disappointing about it. That is that the Doctor and Belinda were not there for the reveal Mrs. Flood, because the way they revealed Mrs. Flood was they did the whole Mrs. Flood reveal in front of 2 strangers, and you're supposed to be building up for the finale. Tell me at any point does that make sense? To me, it doesn't make any sense for Mrs. Flood to bi-generate in front of two strangers who are not the Doctor and not Belinda. Doesn't make any sense. And in fact, it kind of almost feels like they were trying to do a recreation of what Russell did with the Master plotline, the whole Professor Yada, Howard Saxon plotline. This version of their take on Howard Saxon's storyline just didn't work. It looked awkward because of the way they revealed Mrs. Flood in front of two strangers when they could have done a much better version of by having the Doctor and Belinda there for the moment, because that way Belinda would have recognized Mrs. Flood, Doctor would recognize that face, and then finally would understand, who is this? Finally realize it was the Rani, and that would have got him scared, and it would have brought tension to the finale to finally give us a reason to care about the Rani. I feel like many people cared about the Rani because of the way they set her up in the first place, and it's gutting because Archie Pajami did a really good job as the Rani. It's just a shame the way that they revealed her in front of two random strangers just really establish her character properly, and it just, I don't know, I feel like. And also when the Doctor does meet her for the first time, he doesn't even remember her, makes it even more baffling, to be honest. It also kind of adds weight to the whole comment Stephen Moffat did in the 50th anniversary where he said nobody knows who the Rani is. Pretty much that sentiment was seen when the Doctor was speaking to the Rani in the Wish World. But yeah, so that was the part that I thought. And also another pointer was the way that they took off the Rani by having her get eaten by a sort of weird looking Omega. Nah, I refuse to believe the Rani was killed off. I refuse to believe it. Even if Russell's trying to make me believe, oh yeah, the Rani's gone. I refuse. I refuse that Russell wasted an actress as the Rani just to have her be eaten by Omega. I refuse to believe that's what that man did. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in Russell's terms. Why would he do it? That's not Russell of old. That's Russell T Davies who's having a midlife crisis and clearly doesn't understand an iconic character works. But anyway, that was the thing that really annoyed me about the Rani, is that the fact that she didn't get enough screen time in the finale, and then she was just basically wiped clean by Omega. And then another point of contention within the finale was the whole Omega was taken care of in like 2 minutes. Yeah, that was very baffling for me and a lot of Doctor Who fans, questioning the whole point of Omega. I mean, we already questioned about the design choice of Omega, and then to have him get killed in two minutes by the Vindicator. Yeah, that's kind of a definition of a weak enemy. Not being funny, but it kind of is, because the Doctor took him out in 2 minutes, like flat. I'm sorry. That's literally, we saw on our screen, literally the Doctor taking this guy out in roughly under 2 minutes. Very baffling, to be honest. In fact, it was so baffling that the Telegraph journalists, the newspaper's Telegraph, even called this episode, the finale, the reality war, overwhelmed in terms of in a negative way. If you've got, so to have a newspaper journalist tell you that your finale is overwhelming, no, you've messed up. You know you've lost your audience when you've got your own journalist telling you, yeah, this is very over. But it doesn't compare to probably the biggest letdown, which is now being referred to as the most controversial decision in Doctor Who history. And in fact, it's tied to now probably the most disliked regeneration scene in YouTube history. And I'm not extrapolating, and I feel like we're heading in that direction because the amount of dislikes that have been happening to the regeneration video YouTube since last week. But the part that I feel is now considered the most controversial part of the series is the fact that Ncuti Gatwa regenerated Billie Piper, Rose Tyler. Someone please tell me how it makes sense for Ncuti Gatwa, a guy who's been beloved by the Doctor Who community in the last 2 series, who have wanted more from him, is being forced to regenerate to a character who we have, a character from 2005, 2006 as the Doctor. Even though, speaking of that even though the BBC for some weird reason, could not give us a confirmation whether Billy Piper's the 16th Doctor or not, which even more baffled the fan. Honestly, like this is the controversial part of the series that everyone's talking about. Sure, some are praising it. There are some of us like myself who are looking at this, especially given what we saw in the 60th anniversary when we saw David Tennant become the 14th Doctor, and we're looking at this and we're asking ourselves, has Russell run out of ideas, or if you're looking at the Christmas invasion, don't you think he looks tired? I'm not even kidding. That's literally going through my mind. Like, don't you think Russell looks tired? Bringing back characters from his past, from his Doctor Who, to save the show. I mean, you did it once with David Tennant, but for you to do Billy Piper this soon, probably the most baffling thing Russell has ever done in the show's history. The fact that you've basically alienated half of the Doctor Who community and made the other half resent you and ask you to probably consider leaving at this point, because there are some fans who are literally calling Russell to leave and let a new writing team and a new unknown actor take over the role, which, to be honest, are kind of starting to wonder whether that might be a good idea at this point. Because, I mean, when I heard that, because, I mean, when Russell announced he was coming back, I was hoping that Russell was going to elevate the show similar to how he did the Naughties. But so far, looking at all the stuff, I mean, yeah, sure, he did a great series with Ncuti this year. The way he's handling regenerations currently, very concerned for the future of the show whilst he's in charge, because of the way he's making a gimmick out of the regeneration by having Rose Tyler as the Doctor, and the fact that you can't confirm that she's the 16th Doctor, even though a lot of people are very convinced that she is even more baffling. And it's just, I just feel like this is all corporate move, a desperate move to get people behind Doctor Who and to try and get the ratings up so you please Disney or please the BBC or something. It really does feel very desperate the way that this whole thing happened. And also, another thing to note, this whole thing wasn't even the original plan, because we know this full well because of the fact that Ncuti Gat said in Graham Norton's show at the end of near the end of last year, he was hoping to get to Series 3 film this year. And then all of a sudden, within the last, not even long after Christmas, he's all of a sudden deciding to leave and end up doing reshoot that has turned the reality war into a regeneration. Oh God, honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I don't think it's really hard to put into words how, I guess in a way, how tone deaf this whole thing is. Sure, Billie Piper's a great actress. Don't get me wrong. I feel like Billie Piper's done a great job as an acting career. She did a great job in the singing career, even though maybe not many people prefer her singing career to her acting career. Still, she had a relatively good singing career, and she also had a great job as Rose Tyler. But to have her as the Doctor really lost me there. I'm sorry, but you really have. I don't know if I could even support this point. I feel like this is defeating the purpose of what regeneration is supposed to be. Regeneration, as far as Doctor Who's lore is meant to be, it's meant to be reincarnation. It's meant to be a fresh start, right? It's meant to be like a whole new start for the show. This regeneration doesn't feel like any of that. It feels more like this was a desperate regeneration just to desperately get the ratings up, or someone's going to get fired. That's how it feels. It honestly comes across as, oh, I have to desperately get rid of Ncuti Gatwa just to appease somebody. And also it kind of, and at the same time, I do have to question whether this was also a BBC decision, because I mean, I get that Ncuti Gatwa said, okay, it was originally the plan for him to leave after 2 series. Part of me doesn't buy that. Part of me doesn't buy that he only wanted to do 2 series. I know full well that's not the case, because why would you come out in the Graham Norton show last year saying you want to film series 3 next year, and then all of a sudden turn around and tell people, oh yeah, 2 series is originally the plan? No, it wasn't. Planning to do another series, and then you were forced to leave. It was quite as simple. You were forced to leave by someone at the BBC because it's pretty obvious at this point that I think it's related to the whole Eurovision stuff. Because let's not pretend that it wasn't a part of the Eurovision stuff was what influenced this decision, because clearly it did. Otherwise, you wouldn't be forced out the door in the first place. But it's just, honestly, it's baffling to me. It's really baffling that this whole thing, and also again, it feels bad for Ncuti, because honestly feel very bad for Ncuti that he had to go through this. The fact that his doctor has now been made a mockery, Billie Piper has taken over, and now she's becoming a meme to the Doctor Who fan base, and now she's gonna have to live with the fact that she's now a meme, the 16th Doctor, and she's pretty much going to be heading in that direction because of how some fans like myself really liking this decision. The fact that people are disliking the video, I think, is a sign that people are not liking this decision. And I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if Doctor Who fans complain during the points of view tomorrow, because yes, there's a new series of points of views going out. So I guarantee you they're going to bring it up in points of views, and I'm pretty sure there'll be some Doctor Who fans having something to say about it during that program. They do cover it, because I think they ought to listen to the Doctor Who fans about how they feel about this story, especially those who are against this decision, and that will make them finally realize why this thing is not a good idea. And it just sucks. It's like we're having a 2.0 of Peter Capaldi's debut. But yeah, this is the moment, and also at the same time, this moment kind of ruined most of the series for me. You spent most of the series making Ncuti Gatwa have the best performance of his lifetime as the Doctor, only for you in the last minute to basically bury the guy by having Billie Piper take over him. You know what I mean? Like, something doesn't sit right. Bury an actor for his hard work during this year's series by having Billie Piper take over him. Just, I don't know. I feel like there's something not right about this decision, and I've just been taken back by all of this. It really has. To me, it kind of just ruins most of the series for me to have this moment now in the history books of Doctor Who, and it sucks because it could have been a really good regeneration. Only they gave an unknown actor the opportunity, and Russell didn't have to rush to get Billie Piper in his place, which really does feel like that. And I really wish Russell could have just spoken to a young from the BAFTA TV Awards and say, "Hey, fancy being I think you the role as the Doctor," and I think that would have a lot of our opinions this scene. I think a lot of us would actually accept that an unknown actor is the Doctor, and I think we would love. The reason why it's being hated on is by half of the fan base is because, well, but it feels like they feel like that a decision like this is going to kill the show. It's going to ruin the show. It's going to bury the show that we all love. They're kind of right. It really is going to probably hurt the show more than we think. But like I said, that's basically my opinion about the whole controversial regeneration, this series that happened last week, and it's still fresh on our minds after last weekend. Processing it for a week, I'm kind of still resenting this whole regeneration moment. So what's my rating for this series for those who are watching? I was going to give it a 10 out of 10 because of this regeneration ruining most of the series for me. I think I'm going to have to give it a 9 out of 10. Mainly because of Ncuti Gatwa's very incredible performance, and also Belinda's performance within the first 6 episodes. To be fair, Ruby Sunday did a really good job as well, even though they basically made a mockery out, basically forgot about Ruby Sunday in the final episode, and didn't even bother giving her an opportunity to meet the Doctor before his regeneration, which I think is incredibly insulting, because you made Millie Gibson Ncuti's first companion, and yet you didn't even give her an opportunity to say goodbye to the Doctor. What the hell was Russell thinking in that moment? Clearly that don't make any sense, how the Doctor would say goodbye to Belinda, to Ruby Sunday as well. Something doesn't make sense there, in my opinion. I feel like that was a bit disrespectful for Russell to leave Millie Gibson out on the goodbye scene, because I feel like she deserved as Ruby Sunday, especially given we don't even know if she's still around after the Doctor resetting reality. We hope she is. I'm starting to wonder whether she doesn't exist now because of. I hope she is. I hope she's still around. One can hope. Mainly the reason why I'm giving it 9 out of 10 is mostly because of Shooting Gap and the Belinda performance from the first 6 episodes, and also the fact that Jodie Whittaker came back, Fugitive Doctor came back, which were great surprises. Just the great storytelling that Shooting Gatwick gave us this series made I think it deserves a 9 out of 10 in my opinion. It just sucks that I would have given it a 10 out of 10. Russell didn't desperately get Billie Piper into the Doctor's clothes just to make her the Doctor for the sake of making her the Doctor. But that's kind of my thoughts on that one. Let me know in the comment section what you ratings for this series. I would love to know. And stay tuned for my New Who 20th anniversary specials, where we're going to have an opportunity to review Doctor Who Series 1, to Series 13 over the course of the summer and into the autumn, so definitely look out for those. And then we're also going to be doing some specials reviews later this year for the 20th anniversary of New Who, where we'll look back at the previous specials of New Who, which will include the Christmas special and the anniversary and other specials Doctor Who has done over the last 20 years of New Who. That's pretty much all my reviews for this series done, pretty much. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys real soon.